Field widening. Hillary Clinton's unannounced campaign is staffing up with more and more recruits every day. During an interview with BuzzFeed, Ben Smith asked President Obama about 2016 and two likely candidates from previous political generations, Hillary Clinton and, of course, Jeb Bush. The president responded, quote, "They're both obviously highly qualified candidates. Hillary Clinton I know much better than I know Jeb Bush, and I think she'd be an outstanding president." Joining me now for the Daily Fix, BuzzFeed's editor-in-chief, Ben Smith, Chris Lissa, MSNBC contributor and managing editor of PostPolitics.com, and Susan Page, Washington bureau chief of USA Today. Ben, so the president, did he signal at all in his interview with you his thoughts going forward towards 2016? Clearly he's got some decisions to make, but Hillary Clinton is preemptively dominating the field.
Yeah, and I think, there's been a lot of talk of, where there will be distance between them. You almost inevitably see distance between the candidate and the incumbent at some point, but at the moment, they're kind of hugging each other and I think staying close, and I think they see a mutual advantage in that. The one thing I did ask him was whether he thought she would inherit his coalition, whether this coalition of young people, people of color, this kind of new, and he pretty emphatically said no, that a Democrat is going to have to work for whoever the nominee is will have to work for their own coalition.
What he is inheriting is the Obama staff, Susan Page. We see Jennifer Palmieri is going to sign on as communications chief. John Podesta is about to go over. I mean, more and more of the Obama team is becoming the Clinton team, despite past rivalries.
She's got the Obama team, the Clinton team. She's got the John Edwards team. I mean, if you're the only team in town, right, you're going to get everybody. And that is the source of some conflict. You can see it now with the jockeying, both to be on her staff and also to be with these super PACs in support of her run. We see, I think, a little bit of tension there. And it's a little reminiscent of some of the problems she had in 2008 with having a kind of coherent staff. President Obama in 2008 had a very disciplined organization. Hillary Clinton less so, and I think this is going to be one of the challenges for her this time around.
Although, Chris Lissa, one of the issues there was his team too insular, too disciplined. When it got to the White House, it made it more difficult for them to reach out and to bring others in. That said, we also have Jeb Bush as the other sort of generational leader, not a leader in the polls so far, but leader. And interestingly, he is bringing on board a foreign policy advisor, according to the Wall Street Journal today, from his brother's Iraq policy team. Megan Assad.
Let me first say that I thought that was the generations question was the first question Ben asked, and Ben's my friend, but I would say this anyway. It was a really great question because elections do tend to be about the future. Barack Obama won on a generational change message. Unfortunately, Barack Obama didn't answer the question, right? I mean, he went on and said, well, they're both good people and campaigns, blah, 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 blah. But I thought that was really an interesting question and will be critically important if Hillary Clinton is the Democratic nominee. That'd be fascinating. If she's the Democratic nominee and anyone other than Jeb Bush is the Republican nominee, because virtually everyone other than Jeb Bush is either in their early 50s or their 40s who's running for the Republican nomination has a real chance of winning. And that will be the argument they will make. This is about a force of the past in Hillary Clinton versus a force of the future in Marco Rubio, Scott Walker, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, Chris Christie, virtually any of those other figures. So, I actually think it's a really interesting line to watch as it plays out, because almost always we see the new, the fresh-faced, the future generation leader. Bill Clinton in 1992 is another example. When he picks Al Gore, he doubles down on that generational message. So I think it's a really important question that Barack Obama probably has some really interesting thoughts on that he didn't necessarily tell Ben, unfortunately.
And Ben, he did also talk about the gay marriage issue, the so-called evolution of his policy. You asked him about that. I wanted to play a little of your interview.
There's a core principle here that's at stake, which is we have a supremacy clause in our Constitution. When federal law is in conflict with state law, federal law wins out.
This, of course, as Alabama struggles with this, we'll hear from the Supreme Court soon. But interesting to read David Axelrod's insights as to what happened when Vice President Biden, right in this building, blurted out his own preferences, and that forced the president's hand on gay marriage.
Yeah. His view is that Obama was basically always there, and Obama, said to me that what he had learned through this process was that there are moments when you can't split the difference, that he'd been trying to split the difference, that it didn't work. I mean, one of the things actually that I thought was most interesting in the interview was that he said, I asked him why he thought that there had been these LGBT rights victories where in other areas progress has been harder, and he basically said because it's easier. Because gay rights was easier than inner city poverty, which was a pretty interesting, provocative answer. I think the implication, that he sort of said was lots of people have gay family members. I think Justice Roberts, even, like there are lots, and that's a way that cultural change has come fast. Not everybody has a black family member among white people, and I think at least that was the implication. I don't know. It felt to me like that's something I would have loved to hear him say a lot more about.
Well, great interview. Thank you very much for sharing. And Susan Page, of course, and Chris Alyssa.